Western culture has stripped Ikigai down to a simple Venn diagram about finding a job you love, but they completely erased the Moai, the ancient Okinawan social support structure that makes Ikigai biologically possible in the first dang place. And when National Geographic explorer Dan Buettner spent years studying Okinawan for his Blue Zones research, even he noted that the social architecture, not the purpose diagram, was the real longevity engine. You, my friends, are told that Ikigai is about finding your passion, finding your purpose, the sweet spot where what you love meets what the world needs. You've probably seen the 4 circles diagram, the one Mark Wynn popularized back in 2014's blog post, and it went viral and accidentally became the Western definition of ancient Japanese philosophy. You've maybe even built your own one of these diagrams, but here's what no one tells you. The 4 circles are a lie. Not entirely, but enough of a lie to matter. Enough to keep you isolated while you're still searching for yourself. Because there is a 5th element, friends, and it's been hiding in plain sight for over a century in one of the world's longest living populations. The people who actually cracked the Ikigai code didn't find it alone. They found it together, and it's called Moai.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my fellow success seekers? Let's get stuck right in here, shall we? The word Moai really has nothing to do with the Easter Island statues, though the confusion is pretty common. Moai is a group. Specifically, it's a group of 5 to 10 people who commit to showing up for each other, not occasionally, but consistently for decades, sometimes for life. In Okinawa, where people routinely live past 100 with fewer diseases, lower depression rates, and a stronger sense of meaning than almost anywhere else on Earth, Moais aren't optional life hacks. They're a structural foundation that makes everything else around them seem to work. The Okinawans Centenarian Study, running consistently since 1976, consistently identifies those tight social bonds as one of the primary variables separating Okinawa's long-lived population from everyone else's. And Okinawa isn't alone. Dan Buettner documented the same pattern in Sardinia, Nicoya, Ikara, and Loma Linda. Every blue zone different culture, every structural truth, people who live longest don't live alone. Yeah, you might have thought your Ikigai was about discovering some hidden talent or finding that perfect career pivot. And maybe, and don't get me wrong, maybe that's part of it. But what most have been missing is that sustainable purpose isn't built in isolation. It's built inside a container. And Moai is that container. And once you understand how they work, why so many people burn out on their dreams, they're trying to achieve their dreams alone. Here's what actually happens in your brain when you commit to Moai. The Okinawans didn't study neuroscience to figure this out. They just lived it. But neuroscience confirms what they knew, what they ended up living. When you have a consistent group of people who know your goals, who see your setbacks, who celebrate your wins, and who can call you out when you're avoiding, your amygdala, which is your fear center, shows a measurable decreased activity, right? Not metaphorically, measurably. The chronic stress driven by cortisol that usually derails people pursuing big goals, that drops significantly. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and persistence, it lights up like a Christmas tree more consistently. You think differently. You persist differently. You become someone who finishes what they freaking started, not because you're suddenly more disciplined, but because the social structure doesn't allow for you to be quitting. Yeah, but here's what most people misunderstand about Moais. They think it's a mastermind group. It's not. A mastermind group is transactional. You show up, you exchange advice, you get business contacts, maybe you feel motivated for a week. The Moai is relational. The group exists not primarily to help you achieve your goals. That's really secondary. The group exists because the people in it matter to each other. The goals are just what's flowing from that mattering. In Okinawa, Moais often started with neighbors who were roughly the same age. They'd meet regularly, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, but it was almost with religious consistency. They'd share meals. They'd talk about real things, death in the families, marriage struggles, fears about aging. And when someone's businesses failed or their children went through a crisis, the whole Moai showed up, not with motivational speak, with presence, with time. This spirit of showing up has a name in Okinawan culture, Yuimara. I hope I said that right. Meaning mutual aid or the spirit of cooperation. The economic benefit came from the mutual aid, but it wasn't why they gathered. They gathered because isolation is lethal. and they knew it. This is where your current strategy probably breaks down. You've probably tried accountability. Maybe you've had an accountability partner who texts you once a week. That's not Moai. That's a ping. And Moai is a steady pressure applied over time in the context of a genuine relationship. It's the difference between someone who's checking in on your progress and someone who actually knows your values, your fears, and your non-negotiables. When you fail in front of someone who's simply monitoring metrics, yeah, okay, you feel shame. But when you fail in front of the people who know you, you feel something different. You feel accountable. You also feel held. The shame doesn't drive you forward. The belonging drives you forward. Now, there's a second invisible layer, and that second invisible layer of Mohai's is economic mutual aid. In Okinawa, particularly during periods of scarcity, Mohai's functioned as safety nets. If one member's harvest failed, others contributed. If someone needed help building a house, the Moai showed up. This meant people could take risks. They could try new ventures. They could pursue creative work. They could invest in their children's education because the downside was already managed. They weren't gambling alone. And this is critical for understanding why so many ambitious people get stuck. They're trying to pursue their Ikigai while simultaneously carrying all the financial risk alone. The moment things get tight, and they always do, right? Come on, nod with me. Yeah, the dream becomes a luxury that they can't afford. You know, I think modern Moais have changed the shape of this equation. They don't have to be financially independent like traditional Okinawan Moais, but they operate on a principle of mutual investment. You invest your time, your credibility, your emotional energy into the group. In return, you gain access to the group's networks and perspective and moral support. More importantly, you gain what researchers call identity affirmation, the lived experience of being seen as a person that you're becoming, not the person you've been. And this matters way more than you probably realize, and some of you already do realize it. Here's the trap that most self-help content sets for you, right? And you know me, I like calling this out because I used to be one of those guys, just parroting the standard traps. I don't like that anymore. It tells you that your circumstances are the problem, that you need more discipline, that you need a better system, that you need the right framework that they're happy to sell you. Books like Hector Garcia and Francis Morales' Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life, brought this philosophy to millions of Western readers. And Ken Ogi's Neuroscience Grounded, the Little Book of Ikigai, added academic weight to it. But even these excellent books land primarily on the individual's internal journey. What they don't tell you is that systems fail when you're alone. You can have perfect morning routines. You can have crystal clear goals and iron discipline, but without Moai, you're optimizing for isolation. Eventually, for most, and when I say most, I mean like 99.8%, isolation wins. The loneliness compounds. Motivation evaporates not because your goals weren't good, but because you're pursuing them into the black hole, into the void. In one study tracking people with major life goals, those who simply told an accountability partner their goals had a 65% success rate. That's pretty good. That's better than half. And those who actually checked in weekly with a partner bumped that to about 95%. Wow, that's even better. I'm going to try that. No. But those embedded in a genuine Moai structure where the group met regularly, discussed real obstacles, and built genuine relationships showed not just higher success rates, but also higher reported life satisfaction and lower rates of depression. Wow. Let that sink in. The goal becomes almost secondary to the transformation that happens through the group. Yeah. And here's the most uncomfortable part. Really lean in right here. Building a real Moai requires vulnerability. Yeah. It requires you to show up as actually who you are, not your Instagram brand, not your Facebook face. It requires admitting failure. It requires asking for help, about being honest about how scared you really are. This is precisely what most ambitious people are going to resist. Maybe even you. You've probably been taught that strength means self-resilience, that asking for help is weakness, that your dreams are yours alone to achieve. That narrative has cost you more than it has saved you. The Okinawan Moai elders understood something that we in the West have completely forgotten. Interdependence is not weakness. Interdependence pursued at the cost of belonging is weakness. Listen to that. Hit rewind and re-listen to that. Your nervous system knows this. It's literally wired for group safety. When you're alone pursuing your Ikigai, part of your brain is always running a threat assessment. Am I capable enough? Am I making the right choice? Well, what if I fail? These questions compound, and you've heard me talk about this in the past few episodes, because there's no external reassurance. Your mind becomes your own interrogator, and eventually it's going to win. But in Moai, something shifts. You still have the same doubts, don't get me wrong, but you're not running in isolation anymore. When you voice them, other people recognize them. They have felt them too. They've survived them. Your mind moves from interrogation mode to problem-solving mode. Neurotransmitters just shift. Your nervous system recognizes safety. And from that place, you don't become a different person. You become more fully yourself. Yeah, let that one sink in, okay? And now there's a third invisible layer in what researchers call identity crystallization. Yeah, lean into me here. If I've lost you, come on back. You become real in the eyes of others. Not the version of yourself that you project, but the actual developing version of you. In an authentic Moai, people see you across contexts over time. They see you win. They see you fail. They see you stumble and bumble and faceplant. They see you evolve. This creates coherence. You stop compartmentalizing yourself. The ambitious self at work, the struggling self at home, the spiritual self at the yoga class. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you've done it. We all have. In Moai, you're whole. And wholeness is magnetic. It draws people towards you. It opens opportunities because people trust people who are integrated. Yeah. And here's what almost nobody says out loud. Your Ikigai, your sustainable purpose, might not be what you think it is. You might be chasing a version of meaning that was actually designed for someone else. A Moai gives you the safety to discover what actually matters to you versus what you thought you were supposed to be going after, what you thought was supposed to matter. Because when you're embedded in a genuine relationship, you can't fake it forever. The group eventually knows what feeds your soul and knows what depletes it. A group becomes a mirror of your authentic direction. And this is where the Moai principle reveals something most productivity content is going to hide. You're not supposed to figure this out alone. The fantasy of the solo entrepreneur, the independent artist, and the self-made success story, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's profitable to sell, but it's really not how humans actually thrive. Every person who has achieved sustained excellence had Moais. Maybe they called them different things. They called them their crew, a circle, a band of brothers, a chosen family, my ride or die. But the structure was the same. A small group of committed people who showed up consistently, who cared about each other, and who created the conditions for each of the people in that group to become more themselves. There it is. The trap here is assuming that a Moai is easy to build or that just any old group will do. No. A Moai requires intention. It requires people who are actually committed to growth, their own growth and that of others. It requires willingness to be honest. It seems that's getting hard to find, isn't it? Most people would rather stay comfortable in that surface level friendship than risk the vulnerability that a real Moai is going to demand of them. So they remain isolated while they complain about being isolated. They're going to complain about isolation. They remain stuck in their own Ikigai journey while telling themselves they're actually waiting for the right opportunity. Yeah, they're waiting for the wrong thing. The right opportunity isn't a job opening or a business breakthrough. It's finding your people. 3, 4, 5 people who get it, who get you, who will show up in your life and let you show up in theirs, who will celebrate when you level up and hold you steady when you bottom out, who will call you on your bullshit and believe in you anyway, even when you're bullshitting. That's the Moai principle that gets left out of the entire Ikigai diagram. That's the element that separates people who achieve sustainable purpose from people who just flame out or burn out. The people who know this, who built this, who commit to this, they move through life differently. They fail forward. They recover faster. They dream bigger because the risk is distributed. They achieve more because they're not alone. So the real question isn't what's your passion. It's not what does the world need. It's not even what can you do and be paid for it that you enjoy doing. The real question is, who are you building this with? Who is your Moai? Because without them, your Ikigai is just a nice idea. But with them, that Ikigai becomes inevitable. You need the group more than you need the goal. Okay? Now, listen, if this is resonating with you, you can feel something inside you shifting a little bit. If you're sitting there realizing you've been trying to build your Ikigai alone in a room with the door locked, I want you to do something for me. Go on over to Your Success DNA and sign up for the Unleashing Your Success DNA newsletter. It's not another newsletter that's going to sit in your inbox collecting digital dust between the airline promotion codes and the abandoned cart emails. Every single issue is built to do exactly what we've talked about, to give you a mindset shift, to give you a habit upgrade, and to deliver a little dose of rebellion against the life that everyone told you that you had to settle for. Because here's the truth. You can listen to this episode. You can nod along. You can even share it with a friend because you feel it's powerful. And you can feel something stir in your chest. But then you just go right back to doing it alone. Or you can let this be the first brick of your own Moai. Newsletter's free. It's fast. And it might be the first person in your circle who actually gets it. So go find it, suresuccessdna.com. Consider it your invitation into a group you didn't know you actually needed. Okay? So let's get to the Whiskered Wisdom for this episode, the thing I want rattling around in your skull long after this episode ends. You've been told a lie dressed up as empowerment. Do it yourself. Be self-made. Grind alone until you make it. And that lie has cost you more years and more energy and more joy than any failure you've ever had ever could. The truth that our Okinawan friends knew 100 years before we even had a word for burnout is this. Purpose isn't a discovery, it's a construction project. And you don't construct a project alone. So here's your action. Today, before you go to bed, I want you to text one person. I don't want you to send them a motivational quote. Don't send them a hi, how are you? I want you to text them the truth about something you're actually struggling with right now. Something you normally would only share the polished version, or maybe you would just keep it hidden altogether. Send them one honest sentence. That's it. That text right there can be the first stone of your Moai. You don't need 5 people yet. You need one moment of being seen. Everything else can build from there. All right. So let's land this plane. You don't need another framework. You don't need 4 circles and a Venn diagram telling you, go find your passion. No, what you need is permission. Permission to stop treating isolation like some badge of honor and to start treating connection like the survival tool it actually is. Your Ikigai was never going to show up because you finally had the perfect morning routine. It shows up in the room with people that know your name, that know your scars, and they still show up anyway. If this episode cracks something open for you, don't just sit on it. Send it to another person in your life that you know has been white-knuckling their way towards their dream. It might be that they'll send you the text that I told them to. All right, my fellow success seekers, do me a favor. Go find your people. Go build the circle. And as always, think successfully and take action.
Thanks for listening to Your Success DNA podcast. Whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, we have the tools and inspiration that you need to take your life to the next level. So stay tuned for more game-changing advice in our upcoming episodes. And hey, before you go, a quick reminder to check out our past episodes of Your Success DNA for more inspiring stories and practical advice. And if you've loved what you heard, leave us a review and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Let's all level up our lives together, shall we? Remember, your success is in your DNA.